Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Dr. Jaws here, and it is very cold today. It is extremely cold this week. For the whole week, we got a huge amount of snow in Virginia, and it's just freezing, and it's going to be icy, and just cold. And with that, I was inspired to do, because we didn't really pick a shark from last week, I was inspired to cover a species that also lives in the cold and also just is acclimated to frigid temperatures. It's cold vibes today. And with that, there's actually a lot of sharks to choose from, since you could actually maybe even argue that more than half of all shark species are cold water, deep water species, and then the other half relatively tropical species. It's kind of tricky because the most speciose groups of sharks are, by family, it's like the lantern sharks, which are all deep water, the cat sharks, which kind of vary from being deep water to shallow water. But I would think most of the shark biodiversity, when you think about sharks as a whole, is probably concentrated in a cold area anyway. So, point being, there's a lot of species to choose from. But one that I've always been interested in covering that we haven't covered yet is a cousin of the Greenland Sleeper Shark, which is arguably the most cold tolerant shark, which is the Velvet Dogfish, Zameus squamulosus. So this is actually a kind of sleeper shark. It's just on a smaller scale. It's a smaller kind of somniocid, but it's in the same family as Greenland sharks and Pacific sleeper shark. So it is a sleeper shark. And it's a genus that we've never covered before. We've never met a Zameus shark. So I'm excited to kind of learn more about what makes this shark unique. There's actually a lot of research and a lot of science on the species, so it's going to be kind of more of like a science-heavy episode tonight. And I think before we dive in, we'll take a look at some of the cousins, because there's not footage on the species, and that makes sense, just because it lives in such a deep water environment that's very removed from divers. And I mean, it's probably been seen on submersibles, but unfortunately we don't have any footage of this particular species for deep sea cams. But we do have cousins that can kind of help give us an idea of maybe how this animal moves, or at least where it lives. So speaking of one of them, the closely named velvet belly lantern shark. So this is in the family Amopteridae, so these are the lantern sharks. It's very rare to be able to see one in shallow water, and it's really cool that there are some places in the world you can dive with lantern sharks. We actually saw this footage in, I think we did cover the velvet belly specifically, because it's one of the most well-known lantern shark species. But it's kind of cool to see what kind of habitat that lantern sharks live in. So when it comes to shallow water, it's cold water areas, and actually a lot of deep water sharks easily transition to cold water shallow areas. So for example, Greenland sharks, they actually do come into where I am in Virginia in the winter. Like actually, wait, I'm getting this mixed up. They do live in Virginia, but they live in deep water in Virginia. But when you get into higher latitudes, they come into shallower water, because deep water in Virginia is comparably cold to shallow water in like the Arctic, where it's just, the deeper you go, the more stable and cold the water temperature is. So, but really cool to see a lantern shark, where like how it moves, how some of the adaptations are similar to the velvet dogfish. So velvet belly lantern sharks have a similar texture on their bellies, and kind of have a similar color palette in terms of like having a solid like a brown or a black color. Velvet dogfish is also solidly black. Both species actually are bioluminescent to some degree. So lantern sharks are famously bioluminescent and very strongly bioluminescent. Velvet dogfish have some minor bioluminescence, and I think it was recently discovered. So and we'll take a look at that more tonight. But it's so cool. It's really mind-blowing to see a lantern shark and a diver in the same area. It's pretty wild to see. Some deep water critters, including this quite creepy lobster. I'm not sure what species this is. This is some kind of lobster. We got sea pens, pretty sizable sea pens. which is a really cool sight. And even though this is shallow water, this does look, I mean, this is a sandy, oozy plain with a little bit of a littering of shells, and it's really cool to see velvet-bellied lantern sharks coming out of the darkness, patrolling this habitat. That's a great size comparison. So on the other end of the spectrum in terms of size, we have the sleeper sharks, which also are a cousin and actually more closely related to the velvet dogfish than the lantern shark is. So this is a Pacific sleeper, so a humongous shark, a deep water scavenger and predator. Great shot of the jaws, where the teeth kind of work as a single functional row. It's multiple rows of teeth, but they all interlock. So dogfish have this really cool ability of binding down with their upper jaw and then trying to tear chunks of flesh away with their lower jaw. So really up close and personal with this Pacific sleeper shark. So this is the same genus as the Greenland sleeper. It's kind of cool seeing how this shark is trying to maneuver, or this individual's trying to maneuver to get the bait. And a lot of scarring on this individual too, and you have to wonder where this is kind of coming from, and where these scars are coming from. So it's either scarring or depigmentation. It's a great shot of the upper teeth, by the way. It actually, that might be depigmentation because it's not really a pattern. But you could see how the shark is moving. It's kind of doing that, kind of lobbing back and forth to tear that prey away from the arm of the BRUVS. Play this one more time because it's such a cool clip. Similar to the velvet dogfish, it's a solid brown or black color, so excellent camouflage for the deep water environment. You can actually also see very prominently the ampullae lorenzini. These these pores are pretty extensive. So these are electrosensory pores that help the shark navigate or hunt for prey in a environment that has no light. One thing you notice too is like just the size of the nostrils. So smell is going to be very important in such an environment, and very large nostrils relative to the size of the snout. Great shot of the upper teeth, by the way. Just the upper teeth are a little bit more narrow, mostly for gripping. And there he goes, just like such a massive animal. Last clip I do want to check out is of a Greenland shark. So this is the more famous sleeper shark. So again, sleeper sharks are the same family as the velvet dogfish. This individual is actually kind of cool, where looks a little bit smaller. So still sizable shark, but a little bit, something about the proportions. It kind of looks a little bit smaller. You can faintly see, not in this clip, but there was a shot earlier. Oh, it's two Greenland sharks. Wow. There's a shot earlier with these green lasers. Those are used to help estimate the size of anything that they, whatever your expedition is seeing on the seafloor. The lasers help to estimate size. So hopefully they'll turn back on. But really cool to see a Greenland shark. There we go. So you can actually see the lasers kind of. I don't know if the resolution is going to be great, but you can kind of see these two little pinpoints left of the shark's snout, now on the shark's head, and this helps to measure size. It's a handy and easy tool to kind of like help visualize how big this animal really is. And this individual in particular looks pretty massive. So I don't think it was the same individual as the beginning of the clip. I think this one is a little different. But mottle coloration on the back, still like this gray-brown pigmentation. Massive deep water scavenger and predator. Similar in shape to the Pacific sleeper, but Pacific sleepers have more solid color, and I think the nostrils in the Pacific Sleeper are larger too. So incredible to think about that in deep water environments. Sleeper sharks like this one are just cruising on the seabed. This individual, oh wow, this individual is a great shot of the famous copepod, like the parasite on the shark's eyeball. You can actually you see that quite clearly here. And kind of fun trivia. I know Greenland sharks are famous for their parasites, but all sharks can get some kind of parasite. And a lot of sharks actually, like hammerheads, they visit. Oh, that was a great shot of the lasers, by the way. They visit coral reef areas to get cleaned, but Greenland shark can't do that, unfortunately. So I don't think there's a way for it to remove its parasites. Whereas other sharks, they have fish that swim near them, or they have coral reef cleaning stations that they can use to help get rid of them. But all sharks have them. But yeah, so those are three species that are similar related to the velvet dogfish. And the last two, those sleeper sharks, are actually in the same family. So I think what we'll do is we'll take a look at the velvet dogfish in detail. So we'll kind of learn more of like a general overview of the species, and then we'll dive into some really cool research. So spanning from the early 1900s all the way to this century. But here we go. So Zameus squamulosus. This is the first Zameus we've ever covered. Velvet dogfish. So Zameus comes from Zame, which is Japanese for shark. So at the time, this species was only known from Japan. Squamulosus is Latin for covered or beset with small scales, so minute as to give a velvety appearance to the skin. So it's a really great scientific name, or scientific name and English name pairing, velvet dogfish, referencing just like the velvet texture. So it's kind of that velvety appearance is something I think is unique to deepwater sharks. It's really cool to see. So this is actually a good photograph of kind of what they're talking about. And actually a really well preserved specimen here too. So deceased, but you can see these reflective eyes. It's really pretty and eerie. It's kind of like pale blue eyes. This really gorgeous like chocolate color on the body. And then really beautifully proportioned fins too. So two rounded dorsal fins with some small spines. So it's similar to dogfish. I mean, I know it's called colloquially a dogfish, but it's similar to true dogfish and lantern sharks in that they have spines. And interesting because sleeper sharks typically don't have spines, like the large ones don't. So rounded caudal fin, really beautifully angled pelvic fins. And kind of how the belly curves to the pectorals here. Pretty large spiracles on the species too. Let's see other details that we can see. This individual, unfortunately, is a little bit less well preserved. You can tell, like in old drawings, by the way, like old sketches of sharks, where you can actually, if you look at photographs of sharks long enough, you can kind of really start to tell the difference from even like a sketch that's hundreds of years old, whether that was from a living, like from memory of a living individual, or from like a museum specimen, because the museum specimens, they have this like shriveled look, this like dehydrated look, and that's part of that preservation process. So, but really interesting view of the teeth. So the upper jaw here in particular. So we'll probably get a more detailed view. I think I can find a more detailed view of the teeth, hopefully. There we go. Yeah. I think these are the lower jaw teeth, but really nasty looking. Look at this. And this is already very different from other kinds of dogfish. So other dogfish have kind of more like these backward pointing, they have interlocking teeth, and these teeth are like nestled together really closely. So it's similar to true dogfish, but this shark is very different in the sense that the teeth are just these like very large, clearly pointed triangles pointing upward. Other dogfish, the teeth kind of recurve to the back, and they actually have like a more of a flat molar base, or like a flat kind of rounded base at the what do you call that? The labial edge of the tooth. So, which is interesting to see that this looks so different. It's actually similar looking to kitefin sharks, or I don't know about cookie cutter sharks, but kitefin sharks have a similar tooth type. So, really, really don't want to get bit by that. Great shot of the upper teeth versus lower teeth. Very different dentition here. So the lower teeth right here are similar to dogfish teeth, where like true dogfish teeth, where this is what I'm talking about, where they curve backwards. While the upper teeth, oops, sorry, let's go back. There we go. The upper teeth are these long, narrow points. So these are great for gripping prey, and these are great for ripping prey. So gripping teeth, ripping teeth. Gripping teeth on the top, ripping teeth on the bottom. So it's a classic squalus or squaliform dentition. But this here, this is so interesting. Whereas this might be... So some of the lower teeth that we saw might have been in the back of the jaw, but I guess towards the front of the jaw it has more like erect, like really terrifying teeth. Just the broad triangles are very scary tooth type. So. Let's see what else we can learn about the biology of the species. Let's see, so 0 to 220 meters, so it's a very deep water shark. So as a refresher, 0 to 200 is the sunlit zone, 200 to 1,000 is the twilight zone, 1,000 and beyond is the midnight zone, and this shark is 2,000, like 2,200 meters down, so that's really deep water shark. So it says it's usually in the twilight zone, 400, 900 meters, but can go much deeper than that. Wild. Black in color, small dorsal fin spines, small lanceolate teeth without cusplets in the other upper jaw, and large, high knife cutting teeth in the lower jaw. Mouth moderately wide and nearly transverse. Let's see. Biology is demersal or pelagic near continental slopes and seamounts in depths of 550 to 2,000 meters. Also found from the surface to 580 meters over deep water. Let's see, caught rarely by longline fisheries operating in deep water. Also caught but rarely landed by pelagic tuna longline fisheries. Interesting. Fortunately, this shark is... Let me see if I could change this view a little bit. Least concern. So it's actually a shark that is doing relatively okay. So in a world where many sharks are endangered or critically endangered, it's always great to see a species that is doing well, that does not seem to run into a lot of human impacts, probably because of its deep water habitat. It also is kind of fascinating to see that it has a really large global distribution. So Iceland, Western Africa, Western Europe, Gulf of Mexico, Northern South America, Southern Africa, Australia, Japan, Southeast Asia. Really interesting distribution in different parts of the world. As far as the assessment detail, in terms of why the shark is doing well, the Velvet Dogfish is a small, deep-water shark known from a widespread yet patchy global distribution in the Atlantic and Indo-Pacific Oceans, excluding the Eastern Pacific Ocean. It has been recorded from the continental slope and oceanic ridges, and as epipelagic over deep water, from the surface to 1,511 meters. So it looks like it swims, sometimes over the bottom. I can't speak. Sometimes over the bottom, but also sometimes in the midwater column, which is interesting that it's actually kind of swimming in the vast, dark, open ocean. So it's probably hunting, or probably it's a variety of predators from, you can gauge perhaps, some crustaceans, like bottom dwelling, like crabs, or maybe some mollusks, but then in the midwater, it probably goes after squid or midwater fishes like lanternfish. Lanternfish would be or hatchetfish too. Those two would be great midwater prey items to hunt for. The velvet dogfish may be subject to local variability in its susceptibility to capture and likely has refuge at depth. So it doesn't run into people, and it fortunately gets to be safely away from human impact, which is part of why it's doing well. It is infrequently reported from surface longline as well as demersal longline and trawl fisheries. The species is not suspected to be close to reaching a population reduction threshold. There's nothing to suspect or infer population reduction at this time, and the velvet dogfish is assessed as least concern. So great to see that it's doing well. On sharkreferences.com, which is a fabulous website, let's see what things make this shark unique. So apices of the pectoral fins falling well in front of the first dorsal fin spine. So there's a large gap between pectoral fins and the dorsal fin. Fin spines are present, so that's actually unique. Mentioned it before, but it's unique amongst the sleeper sharks. Hello, Quackers! Welcome back! I love that your handle is Cheese and Quackers. It's freezing in Texas finally. Yeah, oh my gosh, it's been unbelievably cold. And I shouldn't say that because like the Mid-Atlantic is nothing on the northern part of the country really, but or the northern part of the United States. But so it's cold. It's cold. It's going to be. It's actually been. I would say it's maybe a somewhat unusually cold winter this year. It's tricky because there's been a couple warm days, but for the most part, I think we're getting some real polar air. But what's really funny, by the way, Quackers, I don't think I've ever shared this before, but I'm starting to incorporate the phrase Quackers in my personal life as in terms of if I'm concerned about something, or if I think something is a little ludicrous and like I'm just feeling kind of just grumpy about something, instead of using really strong language, I say that's Quackers. I don't say it out loud to people, but just kind of privately, I'm just man, that's so Quackers. I'm just doing that because it's I think there's a couple streams where you said that fact is Quackers or something, and it cracks me up. So I'm starting to kind of incorporate it, if you don't mind. But it's an homage to our community. So thank you. It's a new phrase unlocked, and it's what I appreciate. I love words that are kind of fun, creative ways to address something that sometimes people will use curses and stuff, and it's a nice alternative. So yeah. So hope you had a great weekend. I was so let me see your comment. I was so excited for snow yesterday, but woke up to less than. Oh, I'm so. I hate that. I'm sorry. I know the feeling too, because where's the kind of Quackers we have? Amazing. But yeah, what's kind of funny is we got a lot, but it wasn't. It was kind of weird where it was. I was expecting a whole fluffy snow storm, right? It's the peak vibe and the peak aesthetic, and it was a lot of snow and then a bunch of rain that's making everything freeze, and so it was just kind of yeah, it's we're here. It's January. It's cold, so. But good time to catch up on movies. Good time to bake things and make things. So my wife made this amazing dinner. It's this cool sausage dish, and then I made homemade pancakes over the weekend. So I'm just it's been a good cooking dinner movie weekend. But yeah. But the cold has inspired cold water sharks, and here we are, a cold water shark, which I'm excited for this pick because. This is a genus that I've really always wanted to do. As far as just, it's cool to meet unique sharks that are kind of not many people have heard about them, and try to find out what really makes them unique and what makes them their own family. So or not their own family, but their own genus, because it's a sleeper shark, but it's a new genus that we've never covered before. So very excited. Ooh, nice! Made some soup and chicken pot pie. That is perfect. That's a fantastic combo because you want that warmth, but also the carbiness. That's fantastic. So, I love the shark because it makes me think of the Velveteen rabbit. So when I had the story is a Velveteen shark. Love that. Oh my goodness. So I don't know if you were here when we were talking about this, but apparently it gets its name, Velvet Dogfish, from the tiny scales, its scales are so small that it creates a velvety appearance, which is kind of interesting. And then the Latin name squamulosus is also in reference to that velvetness, which is interesting. So let's see. Oh, I love this little note. A small shark, soft-bodied shark. So that's a funny little caption. Color is uniform blackish with no markings. Mouth narrow and short. Anal fin absent, like all squaliforms. Caudal fin with strong subterminal notch and short lower lobe. It's just that's such a great phrase. A small shark, comma soft-bodied shark. So anyway, common names in different languages. We have Bruja terciopelo, Squale-grogneur velute. I really should not be trying this. And then Velvet Dogfish. I love that the name Zameus comes from Zame, and I forgot that Zame was a Japanese word for sharks. And then I think Hai is a German or Dutch word for sharks. But I love, like, I used to kind of go down, I went down a rabbit hole, like, years ago about, like, how you say shark in different languages and, like, what the word is. So I distinctly remember Zame, and it's really cool to see that there's a whole genus named Zameus in reference to the Japanese word for shark. And that comes from, we learned at the top of the stream that it's because the first specimen was caught in Japan. And originally they thought it was limited to only Japan, but it's actually found globally. I'm just skimming through. Let's see. Okay, so diet. Here we go. Sorry, I noticed this. So this shark apparently eats squid, fish, shrimp. But it looks like mostly it's squid, which is kind of interesting. So here is an illustration of perhaps the first description. So people have no idea I'm really agreeing that with shark. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's like were you here for the naughty fish stream? I like that was I wish I have to remember what stream that was, where I forget which species it was, but we were covering a shark and then we went down into this whole rabbit hole of naughty fish names or ridiculous scientific names, and Boops is legitimately it's a legitimately fish name, like a scientific fish name. So but then that went into okay, yeah, you were there. Okay. Yeah. The bony-eared ass fish. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Which is a real fish. Like you know, I just it's a real fish, the bony-eared ass fish. Or I think there's other kinds of ass fish too, but yeah. So okay, glad you were there for that. Yep. So shark makes me think of Boops, which is I forget which one. Hold on. Let's find this again. Boops. What a bizarre name. There we go. Boops is a bream, a sea bream. Okay, so Boops, commonly called the bokeh, or bogue bream, is a type of sea bream. So I have not come across any other interesting fish names lately, but I promise I will, or share them if I see any. But this illustration is really interesting, by the way, where I mentioned earlier, you can tell from engravings that are even over 100 years old whether the shark was alive or dead. And most likely it was dead. I mean, in order to get an accurate description, most likely it was a preserved animal anyway. But you can actually physically tell based on, you can just see if it looks kind of emaciated, it's a preserved specimen, which is so interesting. So. But the center here is this is a engraving of the placoid scale, so the scale on the dermodonticle on the body, not placoid scale, but sorry, the dermodonticle on the body. Upper tooth here on the left, which is long and narrow. Lower tooth on the right, which is a lot thicker, stockier, sturdier, and more pointed. This is an interesting illustration. This is a little bit more modern. I wonder if I can There we go. Where does this come from? Wish it gave me a caption, because it's giving me the sorry, it's giving the species name, which is 1877. So the shark was discovered in the 19th century, but that's not showing this illustration. This illustration looks like it's mid 20th century. Shark art got better, but still had kind of goofy qualities, or not goofy, but like slightly inaccurate qualities. Like this looks a little bit more fancified. That reminds me, kind of a cool science detour. Audubon bird illustrations. Okay. There we go. So you may have seen these. These are really interesting, and it'd be kind of cool to apply these to sharks too. So these are, so you may have heard of the National Audubon Society, which is a very famous wildlife society that it's mostly focused on birds, or its legacy is from birds, but it has expanded to basically anything. They make these amazing field guides that are very popular in at least the United States. They actually like have been there around since, I want to say, like the 90s maybe, but they're either like collections of like the Audubon Field Guide of Birds or the Audubon Field Guide of Fish, or they have regional field guides, which I personally really love. But Audubon, the Audubon Society first had these amazing paintings. And what's interesting is that these paintings are completely beautiful. They are, artistically exquisite, but they're also unnatural. Like these are actually, these paintings have been a very interesting point of conversation for ornithologists, so people who study birds, where to get the right angle or the right scene, if you will, there will be depictions of behaviors that don't really quite happen. So it's they're a very interesting conversation topic, because like these are undeniably stunning. Like these are incredible paintings, but they kind of perhaps show things that are just like not accurate. Like this view right here of this egret on the right, it's kind of like, I don't know if its neck should be doing that. It looks aesthetically pleasing, but don't know if that's quite accurate. So, but it's interesting to kind of apply that to illustrations like this, where this wide-eyed shark, probably not super accurate. The proportions are not. Well, actually, no. Look at this caudal fin. This caudal fin looks a little generic. That's also not quite accurate. The pectoral fin, actually, yeah, this is actually really inaccurate, because the rear end of the pectoral fin is right next to the origin of the dorsal fin, and we learned that that's not actually how the shark looks. The dorsal fin needs to be further back on the body. So, kind of interesting. It's just interesting stuff to think about. So, this is interesting. I think that now we can take photos, vids. It'd be easier to make cool art that's more accurate. So agreed. Actually, I finished. I don't know if I can. I wonder if I could do this safely. I finished my white shark based on that, based on a mix of photos and videos. So I'm doing a. Sorry. Well, I'm gonna fall over. Hold on. Sorry, I'm just very. Did I cancel anything? Okay, no I didn't. Okay. Oh, man. Alright. There we go. So I finished my white shark, which I'm very proud of. And this is based on a mix of scientific illustrations, but also videos. So just like kind of very carefully watching how the animal moves, and just kind of like how you can get different angles on the body, and just like when you look at it head on versus the side versus this weird angle that I kind of chose, like, what is it going to look like? So I'm super happy with it. But that illustration is based on a mix of, and thank you. I'm really, really happy with it. Like, it's just, thank you. I might have to post it on the the community page, because it's been fun doing this like series of sharks. Like I'm trying to do a shark once a month, like a shark that is local to where I am, and actually like local and also present for this time of year. So white sharks are here. They love the cold water, and they oh, thank you. I appreciate that. They love the cold water, and they're very rare in the Mid-Atlantic. They get common in, well, not, well, yeah, common. They get common in the Massachusetts, like I would say just mostly in Massachusetts, a little bit of Rhode Island, but mostly Massachusetts. They get common there in the summer, but here they're kind of interesting where they travel through this area for sure, but they're very, very rare. They're very unpredictable. They're pretty much here every month except July, where the water temperature is a little too warm for them. But right now in January, you can have a white shark here. But it's not common. It's something that could happen, but unlikely to happen. But what's kind of interesting related to that is seal distribution, where down here we do get seals that migrate from the north, but they're also really rare. They don't really haul out on our beaches that much during the winter. They do, but it's not common. And I've actually never seen a seal hauled out. I see like photographs, like updates from the Virginia Aquarium of seals that haul out either in Virginia Beach or near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, but I have not seen one in person, unfortunately, because I love seals. But anyway, and I love what eats them. So, but anyway, so thank you. That the white shark, to kind of like wrap it up, or like kind of pull it back. The white shark is based on a mix of illustrations from professional shark artists, but also like if you freeze frame like different clips and stuff, like we've had so much coverage on this species in particular, but so many shark species, like to your point, between it all, we can get kind of a more accurate illustration. When I compare that piece to, like other illustrations from books throughout, like the past 40 years, there's some that are just like phenomenal and you can't beat it. Like the Sharks of the World guide is unbelievable. The Mark Dando art is like the most incredibly accurate shark art I've ever seen. He's phenomenal. But then there's some artists where it's like, yeah, I kind of got the snout right, or I kind of got the proportions right. Like there's one detail that they mess up a little bit. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see that, like, with the more coverage that we've seen, the more informed the art is, which is great. On the creepy flip side is I'm running into more and more, like, it's not awful quite yet, but I'm running into more AI crap. That is actually getting creepy as far as shark stuff, like just making weirdly like not convincing, but like weirdly like accurate video reels with sharks doing ridiculous things. And it's just like, yeah, that's the dark side of it. But the bright side is there's more accurately informed art, in general, because we do have more coverage of these animals. So, but yeah, and what's kind of interesting is I'm starting to, just on a personal, I'm transitioning to like well-crafted things more, like as far as yeah, it's just kind of I like this comment. I don't know why does AI art look like that. It's kind of interesting how it has that quality that just is uncomfortable. Like something is like wrong, and I've seen like clips that are extraordinarily photorealistic, but there's just something that the animal's doing that's just like, this is weird. I don't know what it is, and it's like, sure enough, it's like an AI thing. So, like I saw a bizarre clip of like a boat, a photorealistic boat with a photorealistic polar bear hanging off of it, and a photorealistic orca whale next to it, and it's like, it's a bizarre scene that doesn't make any sense, and also the angles are weird, and also just like something's just like wrong. So I appreciate AI in terms of writing, because it's easier for me to write emails, which gives me more time for things I actually need to do. But I really, really hate Gen AI and Gen AR slot. Agreed. And it's like I think a good thing is like for like busy work or like I like to call like whenever I think about like stupid questions, like something where it's like, okay, there's something that I need to know. It's probably really basic, but I don't know it, and I don't have a lot of time. Like I will like use it to kind of help me in that way. So I agree where it's like it's great to get quick information on things, but I think it is so important that for the things that you care about and the skills that you need in life, it's so important to do them yourself and to develop that understanding yourself. Because it does change your brain chemistry. Like it does change like how your brain functions, like how you problem solve. Like to go through the rigor of doing it yourself, it does actually like impart good skills for general parts of your life. Like it's good to do that versus you can't check everything. Like you can't AI search everything because it's just like you're not going to develop a skill on your own. It's kind of like relying on. And I'm trying to think of a good way to say it. It's like another way of like relying on something else for power, whereas you can generate your own power in your own way. Like I don't know. There's an eloquent way to say it. I can't quite say that right now. So like, or I can't quite find the words to kind of like. I mean, I guess it's like art, where it's like, okay, actually, on the subject of art, it is like art, where it's like, okay, some painters literally have the skill of capturing a human image or an image of a shark. Like some artists actually understand how the animal moves and apply that to their craft, which is so cool. And then some will just AI it, and it looks fine, but it's just kind of missing that technique, and there's no logic, there's no meaning to it. Like there's no like care or positioning or like there's nothing really there. And on top of that, the person who made it doesn't have the skill. Like they don't actually know what they're doing. And so it's just interesting. So we're gonna catch up on these comments. Let's see. Hate the argument of AI makes art accessible. Like art by default is the most successful thing ever. Because sticks and mud and still make art. 100%. I've never heard of AI music. Actually, I think I've heard of some AI music, and I agree, it's just awful. Yes, I agree. Special effects on kids. I've seen a lot of kids with this mindset of like, why would I work through it when I can use a convenient AI because it robs them of developing critical skills and work stamina. They miss out on the joy of really working on something. Yes, thank you. What's funny, so this is probably going to completely date me, but when I was a kid, there was a great show called Wishbone, and about a dog going through stories and I guess learning life lessons. I don't know. Wishbone's great. And there's this one episode of Wishbone that always stuck with me, where it's kind of a bizarre episode, but it was Wishbone's human friend owner person. Was trying to do math, and like the through line of the episode is like he should be doing the calculations by himself, but he starts using a calculator, and the calculator is so handy. He's like, well, I'm just saving so much time, and then he gets into some bizarre situation where he gets in trouble, and the episode is weirdly anti-calculator, and I don't really know why, but it always stuck with me. Where the lesson is, if you rely on something else to solve your problem, you won't have the ability to solve them yourself. And it puts you in a precarious position. And it's just it's a good life lesson. And it's kind of amazing how extremely relevant it is now. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm an optimist overall, where it's like, I think we're going to be okay, because I feel like there's a mass distaste for AI, to be honest, as far as art goes. It's just like most people don't like it, it's just crap, and it changes behavior. Like for me specifically, I was starting to mention that I care less about just YouTube stuff. Like I don't really, if it's a channel that is like generic and I don't know what it is, I don't really trust it. And so it's driving me back to more like classically made stuff, so like older movies and or like just actual books and stuff. And it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting like pendulum where originally when you think of like movies, or art, it was a very exclusive space where you had to go to film school and you had to be in the industry, and like the amount of content was like less things but more high quality. Like, I shouldn't say they're more high quality, but there was more of a gateway to there was more gatekeeping in terms of like how you get into that industry. And then you have the rise of like social media and YouTube, where that exploded everything, and so many people had access to create content, which is great. And I think it was a great thing that happened, because a lot of the content, like, it still took a lot of skill, and it's still not easy to make a successful channel and to like, make meaningful content. And then now this is like taking that to the nth degree, where it's just easy slop being made, and it's kind of overcrowding the space, and in a weird way it might be pushing people out of the space, perhaps, like where people are like, I'm done, I don't want to really be finding this stuff anymore. I want to go back to like vetted, well-made things. So it's just interesting. So Highway to Heaven, I gotta check that out. Interesting thing in my chem class, 2 people do so well on the assignments because AI, but do horrible on exams. That's exactly it. That is 100% it, because they don't have the skill, which is just, that's so interesting, because they don't have, they don't know what they're doing, and it's a disservice to them. So, I appreciate you fighting the good fight, Quackers, and actually learning the skill, because that's ultimately, that's the whole point of school. Like, that's the whole point. Like, it's not to cheat your way through it. It's to actually learn a skill. So anyway, but good conversation. I think this was a really good discussion. So I love these tangents, because like I think they're important. I mean, no, they are important. I mean, it's just interesting. Yeah. Why would I waste my money on a degree for no reason? Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's just, yeah, I just, the people who are overusing it, it's not going to help them in the long run. So, but getting back to the Velvet Dogfish, it's kind of cool to see change through time in science, because this might be kind of a fun species to apply that to. So this is an early 20th century summary of, or notes on where this genus kind of came from and like what makes it unique. And then we're going to actually kind of go through more of the actual biology of the species. So, oh, thank you, Quackers. No worries. So hope you have a great night too. Thank you for hopping on. It was good to see you, and stay warm, and hope Texas warms up. And I hope that, I've heard there was like another storm, so I hope more snow happens in the right way. But anyway, I hope you have a great week, and thank you for joining, and I appreciate you being here. So thank you, and I will see you again for next week's shark. So, but see you soon. Have a good one. So for Zameus, let's see. So I guess it originally was classified as Squamulosus, which is interesting. So. And this was a reassignment. It looks like Zameus kind of was used in the early 1900s, and then was replaced by Squamnodon, and then was going to replace the shark, like the Velvet Dogfish again. Like shark taxonomy famously is just very chaotic. So it says, as far as how the shark is classified, as in Centroschimus, except with the upper teeth much longer midway along each side of the jaw than either toward the center of the mouth or toward its outer corners. I won't read everything, but let's see. One of the 4 known representatives of the genus has been reported from a depth as great as 1,400 to 1,435 meters. So it looks like the Velvet Dogfish, Zameus squamulosus, was absolutely part of Squamnodon for a while. It says this is from the Twilight Zone, 631 meters. Let's see. Gunther thought that the passage from the relining to erect teeth in the lower jaw is too gradual to justify the separation of Squamnodon from Centroschimus. The difference in dentition between the species referred here to Squamnodon and those referred to Centroschimus is in fact so conspicuous that a glance at the mouth is enough to place a given specimen in one category or the other. Hmm. Oh, this might be an illustration. This might be... I can't tell if this is actually the Velvet Dogfish. This might be a different kind of shark that's closely related. It looks like that's it as far as notes. So, we'll take a look at a more modern guide. So these are the beginning of the FAO guides. So Food and Agriculture Organization, United Nations actually makes these really great shark identification guides. And they focus on different regions around the world. So, there's Zameus squamulosus, so the velvet dogfish is back to Zameus, described in 1877. Let's see. A small, slender-bodied shark with a low, flat head, fairly long snout, short, narrow mouth, post-oral grooves much longer than the short upper labial furrows, a small spine preceding each dorsal fin, no anal fin, small lanceolate teeth without cusplets in the upper jaw, and large, high, knife cutting teeth in the lower jaw. Mouth moderately wide and nearly transverse. Caudal fin with strong subterminal notch on short lower lobe. Uniformly black to dark brownish in color. Let's see. So I won't read the diagnostic features because this will be too long. Let's see. Distribution in this the Eastern Atlantic is around Iceland, the Faroe Ridge to Madeira Islands, Morocco, Cape Verde, Senegal, Namibia, and west coast of South Africa. Let's see. A poorly known epipelagic and oceanic deepwater shark, usually found off the continental and insular shelves on or near the bottom at depths of 550 to 1450 meters, but also well off the bottom at depths between 0 and 580 meters in water 2,000 to 6,000 meters deep. So it's cool that it's swimming mid-water above a really, really deep zone. So it spends its time... And again, that might be a good habitat in terms of hunting for lanternfish or squid who might be coming up to the surface at night. This dogfish might be going after them. A lot of deepwater dogfish do that. So. Let's see. A predator on bottom fishes and vertebrates, but smaller teeth and mouth and weaker jaw suggests as a predator less capable of killing large prey than its congeners, Squamodon rigans. Interesting. It's a pretty small shark, so 84 centimeters for adult male. Maybe not that small, but 84 centimeters for adult males, 47 to 51 centimeters, so about 3 feet at most. This relatively small shark is of limited fisheries interest. It is caught incidentally in bottom trawl and set gill nets, and by bottom and pelagic longline gear in the eastern North Atlantic. There's no species-specific information on numbers of these sharks that are caught as bycatch, but is likely low since they do not seem to be abundant where they are known to occur. Conservation status is data deficient. Now it's least concern, which is great. Due to lack of information of life history, abundance, and population status of this widespread but sporadically distributed shark. Some other names are smallmouth velvet dogfish, and then Bruja bocachica. Interesting. The Japanese Squamodon and the Eastern North Atlantic Squamodon obscurus were considered to be separate by the supposed presence or absence of transverse ridges on dermal denticles. However, comparison dermal denticles between this species and other previously described species reveal the presence of transverse edges on the denticles of both specimens. So it looks like originally these different populations of the velvet dogfish, they were considered to be different species, and then we realized that that was incorrect. There actually are one species at the end of the day. A really cool guide of it's another FAO guide, but more updated illustrations of what the shark looks like. So really cool, eerie looking eye, probably semi-reflective, and we have the dorsal fin spines. That velvety appearance due to the small scales. In Japanese, the shark is known as Birou dozame. Birou dozame. Interesting. Really excellent photographs here. Let's see if we can zoom in for a better look. So fantastic photograph of the jaws, including the upper teeth. Kind of interesting how the jaws are shaped. They actually are a little bit more... so like the mouth looks more like a classic shark mouth, but the jaws themselves are actually kind of squared off. Really interesting head shape. Because you could see that, you know, they kind of... the upper teeth, which are these like long, narrow teeth, they kind of like... I'm trying to find the right way to say it, but it looks like kind of like more of a kind of a squared off shape. It's not like this like curving arc. It's kind of more like a boxy shape within the mouth, which is interesting. So the upper teeth are here. Lower teeth, you can't see them, but they're tucked in the back and they're very different looking. So the diagram here shows that they're really more pointed, they're taller, they're broader than the narrow upper teeth. So really great image. Beautiful image of that eye, that really like gorgeous sea green, aquamarine, reflective eye. Very, very ghostly looking almost. So reflective for maximizing light in a deep water environment. So interesting. Size comparison, so pretty small shark overall. Similar species are the Centroschimus coelolepis and Centroschimus austonii. I want to say that's the Portuguese dogfish, but let's double check that really quick. Checking sharks of the world. Okay, so it's the Portuguese dogfish and rough-skinned dogfish are similar related species. But you can kind of tell the Portuguese dogfish has like much smaller dorsal fins, and pectoral fin is a little bit smaller too. Interesting. This is another FAO guide, very similar to the first one we read, so we'll just breeze through this to see if there's anything new. Might be the same one actually with the same range. Let's hop over again. Okay, this one's a little bit different, so similar illustration but different guide. This one is in about a local population in southwestern Africa. Poorly known epipelagic and oceanic deepwater shark. Predator on bottom fishes and vertebrates, but smaller teeth and mouth and weaker jaws suggest it's a predator less capable of killing large prey. This is a relatively small somniocid, is of limited fisheries interest. Also caught infrequently by tuna longliners in the epipelagic zone. Okay. Double check. This is similar information here, but different photograph, which is kind of interesting. So in this photograph, the upper jaw actually looks a little bit different. So probably still, it might be because the mouth is closed, but still a little squared off looking, not quite hitting the corners of the mouth overall. But it's kind of cool to see the mouth more concealed and kind of more flush with the body. And here you can actually see some detail of the scales. So as you get closer, you can see how tiny the scales are and how they create this velvety look for which the shark gets its name. So. Let's see. This might be kind of new. A really cool diagram of the dentition. So you can actually see more towards the interior edge of the mouth how straight the teeth are on the lower jaw, and then they slowly curve back. So really nasty teeth. And then the upper teeth much smaller, thinner, more peg-like, great for stabbing prey in the upper jaw. So diagnostic characters. So I'll just read the ones in bold because these are, for these guides, are the most important ones. So dermal denticles of back with cusps, longitudinal ridges, and distinctive transverse ridges in young and adults. So that's the these three ridges here on this diagram for the dermal denticles or the scales. Snout pointed and somewhat elongated, much longer than mouth width. Mouth moderate size and moderately arched. Upper teeth much smaller, not blade-like, with extremely long, slender, erect cusps and no cusplets. Lower teeth large, unserrated, compressed, blade-like, and with a single very large, erect or semi-erect cusp, no cusplets. Pectoral fins of the inner corners rounded. Pelvic fins small, so pelvic fins right here. Caudal fin with subterminal notch, strongly indicated, lower caudal lobe short, but well differentiated in adults. Uniformly brownish black in color. So this guide is focused more on Africa as a whole, or the African Atlantic as a whole. Some new information is that the shark can be found near seamounts. Utilization not reported, but probably used for fish meal in the area. And then that's it, unfortunately, for the species. So little by little, we're getting a little bit more. It's another FAO guide. Let's see, this one is more South America. Let's see. It's kind of interesting. It keeps saying that smaller teeth and mouth, weaker jaw suggests as a predator less capable of killing large prey than Squamulodon ring ends. Local names in Chile are Tolo and then Bruja Turciopelo. Interesting. Okay, so this might be kind of interesting. This is more of a recent article that is focusing on the vertical distribution, diet, and reproduction of the velvet dogfish in waters of Hawaii. So this might give us more detail in terms of like how the species works. So, and this one was published in 2019, I want to say 2017. So, or pretty recent. This is by Gerald L. Crow, Bradley M. Weatherby, Robert L. Humphreys, and Richard Young. So the velvet dogfish is a wide-ranging species of shark that is captured as bycatch in bottom and pelagic longline fisheries in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, from near the surface to depths as great as 2,000 meters. Here we provide information on the vertical distribution, diet, and reproduction of the velvet dogfish based on examination of 21 specimens captured in Hawaiian longline fisheries. Only females were captured in waters of Hawaii, and this finding may indicate sexual segregation for the species. So that's actually really cool, because other members of this order, a lot of sharks do segregate sexually. So the most famous one is, or the most famous one to me is a spiny dogfish, where I believe it's large females like to be in shallow water, kind of near the continental shelf, whereas immature females and males like to be in deeper water. I believe I have that correct, but like the schools are separate. So large females, immature males, large females, immature females, and males of these dogfish, they don't really tend to aggregate together. They tend to be in separate habitats, even though they're the same species. They obviously will congregate together at some point for spawning, or not spawning, but like mating. But overall, in terms of like their general life history, they tend to be separate, which is kind of interesting. So it's kind of cool to see sexual segregation for the velvet dogfish, just because some distant cousins do that too. So all individuals are captured in epipelagic and pelagic oceanic waters at estimated target hook depths between 24 and 400 meters. Stomach and intestinal contents consist of squid, fish, and shrimp. Females were immature at 576 to 729 millimeters. So 58 to 73 centimeters as immature females. and mature at 72 to 84 centimeters. Mature females contain 6 to 10 uterine eggs and 4 to 8 embryos. On the basis of results from the pregnant female, the size of ovarian ova, and the width of the uteri of slightly larger individuals, female maturity is estimated to occur at 72 to 73 centimeters. No reproductive seasonality was detected, however, sample size was small. Reproductive data from published records for size of neoterm embryos and smallest free-swimming specimens with umbilical scars indicate that the size of birth is about 25 to 27 centimeters. So really small baby sharks. So we won't read the whole article, but we'll just kind of skim through the more interesting parts of it. So, the velvet dogfish is a dark, nondescript shark species with a wide distribution along the margins of the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Ocean basins, and a number of insular regions, including the Canary Islands, Hawaii, Japan, New Zealand, Okinawa, and Palau. Let's see. Although this species was placed in the genus Squamulodon before the revision by Taniguchi and Garrick in 1986, the genus Zameus is genetically distinct from Squamulodon, and Zameus squamulosus is recognized as the valid name for the velvet dogfish, according to White et al. In 2014. The species occurs as a bycatch in a variety of fisheries, including those using trawls and pelagic or bottom long lines. Although the velvet dogfish has a wide distribution and is regularly captured, information about its basic life history remains fragmentary. Information about its basic life history remains fragmentary and has been hindered by misidentification. Not surprisingly, the species is categorized in the International Union for Conservation Nature as data deficient. So again, this has changed. It's great to see that the shark is recategorized as least concern. So wonderful to see that, and a lot of species are actually have undergone that revision. So sand devils was when I was first studying sharks, sand devils are a kind of angel shark that originally was data deficient, and now they're least concerned. So our understanding of them has improved. So it's kind of cool to see sharks that, after improved science and understanding, we've realized they're actually doing okay. So not all of them. A lot of them, of course, are endangered, but a large chunk of sharks are also okay, relatively. So let's see. Where is it? Okay, the limited information on its basic biology, which is required to assess the status of a stock or to evaluate fisheries' impact on population, is unavailable. Let's see. Few records exist on the diet and reproductive biology of the velvet dogfish. It's been suggested that they feed on bottom fishes and invertebrates. And one scientist reported an octopus in the stomach of one individual. Now, that's actually pretty interesting, because sharks and octopi are kind of hard to capture, simply because they're pretty clever. They're kind of smart, and shark-octopus interactions are interesting, just because there's examples of octopuses kind of confusing sharks or tricking them, which is kind of cool. So this is a map of the study area, by the way. On the basis of examination of a small number of reproductive tracts, velvet dogfish have been described as basically ovoviviparous, which is very common for squaliforms. Let's see. I'm just going to kind of skim through this. Individual velvet dogfish as large as a meter have been noted. The maximum size was previously reported as 84 centimeters. Specimens of the velvet dogfish are occasionally captured in Hawaii longline fisheries that primarily target tuna species and swordfish. Longlines that primarily target big-eye tuna are typically set in the morning and hauled in the evening. And longlines that target swordfish are set in the evening and retrieved during the morning. This fishery generally extends into the mid-north Pacific Ocean from the equator to 40 degrees north and between the longitudes 145 degrees west and 175 degrees east. The capture of velvet dogfish as bycatch in Hawaii pelagic longline fishery provided an opportunity to expand our knowledge about this species. Let's see, we present information on depth distribution, diet, female reproductive biology of velvet dogfish captured in Hawaii pelagic longline fisheries. So we won't read the method. What? I will read the diet though. The primary bait used with tuna longlines was Pacific sauri, which could be recognized in the gut and excluded from a dietary analysis. Interesting. Squid beaks, fish remains, and shrimp present in stomachs were preserved in a 4 to 10% formalin. Interesting. Nine of the 21 sharks examined had recognizable stomach or intestinal contents of mesopelagic, so twilight zone, and epipelagic prey, so sunlit zone. 7 sharks contained squid beaks, squid eye lenses, and squid gladii. Fish remains were present in 4 sharks, and a shrimp was present in 1 shark. Interesting. Vertical distribution. So this is actually going to be really cool because it sounds like this shark undertakes deal migration. So they actually follow their prey up at night and go back down to the depths during the daytime. So other dogfish do this too. But let's see. The capture of velvet dogfish in Hawaii pelagic longline fisheries is not as rare an event as previously suggested. Worldwide distribution of the species includes a number of insular locations such as Hawaii and other waters in the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Indian Ocean. Let's see. Oh, kind of a cool chart of when they captured these sharks. So, not seen in January. Kind of quiet for the first half of the year. Then July through December is when they seem to get more individuals, which is kind of interesting. Our findings indicate that velvet dogfish feed primarily on squid and less on fish and shrimp. However, these results may be biased as a result of the longer retention of squid beaks and stomachs because of their resistance to digestion than the retention of other invertebrate prey or fish. That's an interesting point. And especially interesting considering that sharks have a really unique digestion system that is very slow, and it's kind of interesting to think about. The system is already very, very slow, but to have something that is hard to digest like a squid beak may be creating bias in this kind of study. It's pretty interesting. It is not surprising that squid are a major food item of the velvet dogfish in waters surrounding Hawaii, given the abundance of a number of species of squid that occur in this region. The greatest trawl catches for a wide range of cephalopod species in Hawaii have been recorded at night in the upper 200 meters. Many of these cephalopods, cephalopod species are thought to undergo a deal migration from daytime depths of 400 to 700 meters, so they come from the twilight zone, to shallower nighttime depths of 250 to 300 meters. The well-developed tail of velvet dogfish and the depth distribution of the various squid consumed by the dogfish examined indicate that the velvet dogfish may be an active feeder or an ambush predator in the epipelagic and mesopelagic zones. Active predation on pelagic cephalopods by adult and subadult Portuguese sharks in the Catalan Sea were also reported. So that's actually really cool because previous studies were saying that velvet dogfish maybe is like its jaws are too weak, or it's just like not really maybe an active hunter, and it's kind of cool that this study contradicts it, where it's saying no, it actually probably goes after hard to catch prey like squid. So really cool to see that. So I'm kind of skipping through a lot of the reproductive studies just because I feel like we do talk about shark reproduction quite a lot. This is interesting though. There is some evidence that bycatch of velvet dogfish in commercial fisheries is increasing. Romanov et al. Reported increased numbers of velvet dogfish caught in pelagic fisheries in the Indian Ocean since 1989, but the species was not reported as bycatch in this fishery from 1961 to 1989. They suggested that increased abundance of velvet dogfish and other mid-sized oceanic predators in pelagic fisheries may be related to broad ecological shifts in oceanic waters that have occurred over the past few decades. one author suggested that recent increases in abundance of other mid-sized mesopredators, including pomfrays, snake mackerels, and pelagic fisheries, pomfrays and snake mackerels and pelagic fisheries operating from Hawaii, may be attributed to the reduction in apex predators in this ecosystem. So that's actually really interesting and kind of disturbing that there's been an increase in pomfrays and snake mackerels, so these like other fish, and the increase may be coming from a phenomenon called predator release, where if you remove a predator from an ecosystem, you'll see the effect in the abundance of other animals. And some may think that sounds good, but it's actually really bad because you can create a trophic collapse where the famous example is kelp forest, where people used to hunt sea otters, and when sea otters disappeared, it allowed for urchins to flourish, and the urchins in turn started to really go after kelp and kind of tear down kelp forests and were a very destructive force. Now that we've kind of helped bring sea otters back, and it's still a long ways to go, the otters just naturally go after the urchins, and then by reducing the number of urchins, the kelp has a chance to grow. And there's a balance. So, every, the set of animals that we have today and the set of, the ecosystem that we have today comes from the balance. And it's kind of interesting and really freaky that if there's an increase in these fishes, it may be attributed to this shark or other kinds of sharks declining. So, and on that note, least concern is the best status you can have as far as an animal like any animal assessed by the IUCN, but it is relative. It's important to point out that this is relative, meaning that it doesn't mean that it's objectively like in this amazing position. It just means compared to other animals, this is one you don't need to worry about because it's handling things well, but it doesn't mean it's resplendently abundant. So I'm trying to think of a good example where it's a healthy population, but it's not necessarily an abundant population is the best way to say it. So as an example, bunnies are least concerned, cottontail rabbits are least concerned, and that's an abundant animal, which is great. But I think bald eagles are least concerned now. Let me make sure I have that right. And that's great if they are, but they weren't always like that. Yes, so bald eagles. This is actually, I'm a little bit proud of myself. This is a really good example. So bald eagles currently are least concerned, which is fantastic. But that doesn't mean it's immune, and it doesn't mean it's wildly abundant. This species almost went extinct. This species was really, really threatened in the mid 20th century, and with DDT and just chemicals affecting their eggs, and a really concerted conservation effort helped bring them back. And it's amazing that they're doing okay now. It's actually really cool that they're pretty common in Virginia, like where I live. I went hiking a week ago and heard some, which is so cool. It's kind of cool to live that experience where, generations ago they were talking about please don't let the bald eagle go extinct, and then now it's our modern generations can enjoy it because of conservation. So anyway, just small note about least concern. It's good. But it doesn't mean it's a guarantee of safety. So, and wanted to share that and tie in tandem with this article saying that even though this dogfish is doing well, there may be signs that there's not as many of them as before. So, the increasing presence of velvet dogfish in the bycatch of pelagic fisheries may be a harbinger of a shift that will occur in these fisheries. The ecological position and population dynamics of mesopredators and their link to fisheries are important considerations for the management of the species. Interesting article overall. So really cool, much more information than we used to have on this shark. So great to see it. This is a IUCN report card, which we'll just breeze through. Let's see. The presently known disjunct range in many ocean regions suggests that it is more widely distributed than currently recorded.
Very little is known of its biology. However, deepwater squaloids are vulnerable to population decline from overfishing due to limited life history characteristics. The velvet dogfish is probably rare. There's currently no information on population size, structure, or trend for the species. Let's see. There's another one. Oh, I thought there was another one. There we go. There's another one that may be updated. It is taken as bycatch in various deep water fisheries, but there's little catch information. With limited catches and significant refuge at depth, this species is assessed as least concern. The species has no commercial value in Australia, but elsewhere is used as dried and sold for human consumption of fish meal. Is generally on or near the bottom, but also pelagic off Brazil at depths of 0 to 580 meters in waters 2,000 meters deep. Interesting. A couple other articles. There's one that I am a bit curious about. We've seen this before, but it's such a cool study on shark bioluminescence, and like how deep water sharks can actually emit light, which is really cool. And this shark is referenced, but I like to learn more about like why it's included in these studies. Is it like more of an outlier, or does it have very limited bioluminescent capabilities? So I'm excited to learn more. So, and also I'm just gonna take a sip of it's seltzer water. It's nothing else. It's seltzer water. But so, glow-on sharks, state-of-the-art bioluminescence research. This is by Laurent Duchatelet, Julian M. Kleis, Jerome Del Rossi. I apologize if I'm not saying these right. Patrick Fleming and Jerome Malfet. This review presents a synthesis of shark bioluminescence knowledge. Up-to-date bioluminescent sharks are found only in squaliforms, and specifically the Amopteridae, lantern sharks, Delatiidae, the kitefin sharks, and Somniosidae families. So Somniosidae is the sleeper sharks, including Tonite species. The state-of-the-art knowledge about the evolution, ecological functions, histological structure, and associated squamation and physiological control of the photogenic organs of these elusive deep-sea sharks is presented. Special focus is given to their unique and singular hormonal luminescence control mechanism. In its context, the implication of the photophore-associated extraocular photoreception, which complements the visual adaptations of bioluminescent sharks to perceive residual downwelling light and luminescence in dim light environments, in the hormonally based luminescence control is depicted in detail. Similarities and differences between shark families are highlighted and support the hypothesis of an evolutionary unique ancestral appearance of luminescence in the lazarbranchs. Finally, potential areas for future research on shark luminescence are presented. So, we'll take a tiny quick look at bioluminescence in general, and then we'll see how it applies to the shark specifically. I'm very excited for this. Bioluminescence is the ability of living organisms to produce visible light. Mention of this phenomenon dates back to antiquity with a description of cold light by Aristotle in his book De Anima. Many centuries later, Charles Darwin, on board the Beagle, witnessed and described light in the water as a milky sea in his logbook. The first studies demonstrating mechanisms underlining bioluminescence appeared in 1667 with Robert Boyle, who depicted the oxygen requirement for luminescence production. Bioluminescence is a result of a spontaneous exergonic chemical reaction involving the oxidation of a luciferin catalyzed by luciferase, which produce a transitory excited state that finally relaxes by emitting a photon with oxyluciferin as final product. So, fun cultural fact, you may have noticed this word luciferin or luciferase. If you've ever heard of the name Lucifer, it's the same root, because Lucifer in mythology is light. He was a fallen angel, so the word comes from the word light. like Lucos or Lumos or whatever. It's the same root, which is so interesting. So if you kind of shuddered hearing like Luciferin, that's intentional. The root of that word and the root of that name actually comes from the word light, which is kind of cool. It's just interesting. So luminous systems evolved either luciferase or luciferin as separate components or a complex molecule called photoprotein comprising a preoxidized luciferin and luciferasic activity. Luciferins are common to different taxa, while luciferases are thought to be typically species-specific, but exceptions to this rule have been recently highlighted. Similar luciferases, first described in species from the same phyla within a clade, are now found between phylogenetically distant species, supporting the existence of multiphyletic distribution of these luciferases. Rare in terms of species number, luminescence nevertheless arose over 700 genera from 13 phyla covering all kingdoms except plants and archaea. Now that's interesting, because that means, so bacteria can give off light, animals can give off light, plants and archaea can't. There's another one that I'm missing, algae? Algae can give off light, like algae. And then protists? I think protists? I don't know. This phylogenetic diversity results from numerous independent evolutions of light-producing capability. In fact, it is estimated that bioluminescence arose independently more than 90 times during evolution, which suggests that luminescence is of paramount ecological importance, but also that the acquisition of light emission capability is a relatively easy and quick process. So that's actually really cool. 90 times during evolution has light evolved, like emitting light evolved. It's such a cool thing. And also, I don't know where genetic studies are going to go in the future, like, and genetic, I know they're talking about like genetic, what do you call it? I don't want to say modification because it's very Jurassic Parky, but there's a lot of focus on genetics into the future, and can you modify genes, and like what can you turn on and off, and it's really complicated, but kind of interesting to think about, like, if it really is this easy, quote unquote, evolutionarily to evolve. Like, I don't know what that will look like in the future in terms of like, is it going to be because pretty sure there have been studies where they were able to create fluorescence in certain animals that didn't have it before. So I don't know, but anyway, that's a whole other story. 80% of luminous taxa inhabit marine environments, from coastal shallow waters to abyssal depths, and are mainly found in bacteria, protists, ctenophores, cnidarians, annelids, mollusks, chytognaths, crustaceans, echinoderms, tunicates, and fishes. So, okay, in English, that's bacteria, protists, comb jellyfish, which I've actually seen that firsthand. They're really beautiful. They have this like electric blue color at night, and these could be, I think it's ladies comb jelly or sea gooseberries. I think both can do it, but you can actually see this in Chesapeake Bay. You can actually see comb jellies like in the lower bay at night. If you touch a comb jelly, you actually will be able to see it glow, which is kind of cool. Cnidarians are jellyfish, maybe sea anemones, but probably just jellyfish. Annelids are worms. Mollusks are, of course, like snails. Actually, not snails. Snails are mollusks, but this probably is going to refer to squid. I know there's bioluminescent squid. Chytognaths are a whole weird group of animals. Let's take a look at what they are, actually. I think they're called acorn worms. They're really strange. Here we go. So, predatory marine worms, they're very weird in that it's a worm that's not a worm. Like, it's a worm-like, fish-like thing with these like kind of creepy teeth-like structures. So it's not true jaws, but like this is a very interesting group of animals that It's not a worm, and it's not a vertebrate. It's this whole other thing that it belongs to an entire phylum of its own. So it's kind of cool. When we think of vertebrates, we just think of like insects, crustaceans, and mollusks, and jellyfish. But we don't really think of these. There's so many phyla of animals, like literally that are just like too different from each other, and they can't be put into other categories. They just kind of are their own thing. And counter-illumination is one of them. And I think I got it wrong. I don't think they're acorn worms. They are. Oh no, arrow worms. That's what it is. Arrow worms. So, very. There we go. That is a little bit nightmare-tastic. I'm trying to get a good view so you can see this. This is a microscopic image of what a counter-illumination jaw looks like. So, there we go. So you can kind of see like these like long spiky teeth. It's a tiny animal, but still it's like kind of freaky. So. Okay, so we'll go back to bioluminescence, but kind of cool detour though. Crustaceans, so crabs. I'm not sure what bioluminescent crustacean. I'm actually not sure what that would be. So crabs, lobsters, shrimp, probably shrimp. Echinoderms. So I am actually not sure what that would be either. So oh, actually, you know what? So I think abalone. No, abalone is a mollusk. Never mind. Echinoderms would be sea stars and sea urchins and sea cucumbers, and maybe it's an urchin that does it. I'm not sure which one that is. Tunicates are also a unique group of animals. They are very strange vertebrates that are more closely related to us than any other kind of invertebrate, and then fishes. Within the water column, the mesopelagic zone has been estimated to host a high proportion of luminous organisms, which makes sense. So the twilight zone, you need to be luminous in order to communicate or navigate or find prey. Mesopelagic bony fishes appear to be luminous. Comparatively, terrestrial and freshwater luminous animals are only represented by earthworms, snails and limpets, fireflies, beetles, and some insect larvae. Although observations of shark luminescence have been reported for almost 2 centuries, the first research projects dedicated to shark luminescence were only initiated in 2005 and focused on the study of the ecological functions and physiological control of the photophores of a single species, the velvet-bellied lantern shark, Amoptera spinax. Since then, shark luminescence research has flourished, with detailed phylogenetical, ecological, histological, and physiological studies now available for numerous species. By synthesizing the findings of those studies, this article aims to provide not only a holistic view of current shark luminescence knowledge, but also perspectives for future research. So I love this study. It's super interesting. And let's see how it applies to this dogfish specifically. There's another one like this that we'll take a look at in a little bit too. Okay. Although luminescence has been reported for the species that belong to Amopteridae and Delaciidae, was initially thought to have been acquired independently, the recent discovery of luminescence from a somniocid, the velvet dogfish, now strongly suggests that the acquisition of luminescence capability in sharks represents a single evolutionary event, which occurred during the deep-sea radiation of squaliforms at the end of the Cretaceous period. Although fossil studies estimate the Amopteridae radiation from around 90 million years ago, molecular data presents a separation of Amopteridae from other squaliforms during the Upper Cretaceous, 65 to 90 million years ago. The Delaciidae family radiated later, during the Paleocene, after the Cretaceous-Paleocene mass extinction, 65 to 105 million years ago, when they substituted extinct marine reptiles and fishes in the epipelagic fauna before reaching the deep sea. Interestingly, the phylogenetic structures appear ubiquitous in Amopteridae and Delaciidae. Nevertheless, Zameus squamulosus, the velvet dogfish, is the only somniocid shark known to possess photophores. Interesting. Oops. And here it is. So this shark, the velvet dogfish, is right here. So this is a chart of the evolution of these uh, light-producing sharks. And you can see that the velvet dogfish is the only sleeper shark here that has any kind of luminescence. And it has a common ancestor. I mean, it shares a common ancestor with all these other squall forms, but it's a branch off of the Ammophiridae, so the lantern sharks here. And all of them either have luminescence or are expected to be luminescent. And then there's another branch here, the kitefin sharks, where all of them are also luminescent or expected to be luminescent. But it's kind of interesting that the velvet dogfish is the only sleeper shark that has it, and the rest don't. So, really interesting stuff. And then the true dogfish, Squalidae, none of them are luminescent. And then Cetrophoridae, the gulper sharks, none of them are luminescent. So, interesting. So the velvet dogfish has photophores, and they are blue-green. Interesting. The tail of... And, okay, it looks like the velvet dogfish has photophores in the tail. In addition, the tail of the velvet dogfish, which is more mobile and brighter than the rest of the ventral surface area, could work as a distracting lure, and hence be analogous to the caudal photophores of myctophid and tube shoulder fishes. So myctophids are lantern fishes. So interesting. So it might. So this shark apparently has a feature that might be similar to lantern fishes. And I want to see if any illustrations capture this. I don't see anything other than maybe the upper caudal fin. Oh, here we go. Okay, there's something going on here. Right here. So the margins of the caudal fin are a little bit fainter, which is kind of interesting. So potentially this is where this feature is located. Interesting. Oh, here we go. Oh, so actually, apparently, for this shark, there we go. So this is the only one. So this is a diagram exclusively of the velvet belly dogfish right here. Or sorry, the velvet dogfish. It's not velvet belly, velvet dogfish. And apparently, the bioluminescence is packed within the scales and is actually the entire belly. So it's not just the tail; it's right in the belly itself. So again, let's see, any indications of that in the illustrations here? So you can't really see that. I just noticed though, it looks like there's a little pocket right here, similar to pocket shark. Interesting. Pocket's not illustrated here. No indication of luminescence on this drawing either. Interesting. But this is the species, Zameus squamulosus, so the velvet dogfish does glow in the dark, which is really cool. Could be a way to hide, where, if you have a luminescent belly, could be a way to, like when this shark swims up to the surface under like the moonlight, it could be a way to help hide from potential predators in like a blue ocean, potentially, with the downwelling light. It's a theory that kind of makes sense. Here we go. Although the pharmacological control of the velvet dogfish photophores has not been investigated yet, these organs could be assumed to be under hormonal control as well, given their structural similarity of delated photophores. So apparently the velvet dogfish has a photophore similar to lantern sharks. Further work on the subject will allow us to confirm this hypothesis. So here's a little bit more detail on how lantern sharks are able to, and kitefin sharks are able to turn their bioluminescence on and off. So really interesting chemistry here. So more, I'm going to post this article in the chat if anybody in the future wants to read it, because it is really interesting to see just kind of how this works, like how sharks are able to control bioluminescence. Let's see. This figure right here, these beautiful blue photophores. This is from, it looks like the velvet belly lantern shark, Hemopterus spinex. Very cool. Okay. I think what we'll do is there's one more. Oh, yeah, this is it. I'm absolutely sure. I think there's one more bioluminescence study. I think this was it. So I think we'll just kind of skim through this if there's any additional information for this dogfish, and then I think we'll wrap it up for tonight. And then we'll pick another mystery shark for next week. But let's see what they have on the velvet dogfish here. So let's see. The skin surface occupied by scales appears to be reduced in luminous clads, which reflects a relationship between scale coverage and the ability to emit light. In luminous species, the placoid scales morphotypes are restricted to pavement, bristle, and spine-shaped, except for the only luminescent somniosid, which is the velvet belly lantern shark. Oh, sorry, the velvet dogfish. Velvet dogfish. Sorry, misspoke. They do have like similar names, but they're completely different animals. And the delated Molluscoma mississippians, which is the pocket shark. These results, deriving from unprecedented sampling, show extensive morphological diversity in placoid scale shape, but little variation in elemental composition among squall forms. Let's see. Recently, 2 new types of placoid scales were described for the luminescent ventral area of the velvet dogfish and the rostral area of the kitefin shark. Surprisingly, both species have overlapping shield-shaped placoid scales with light organs embedded in the skin underneath. The emitted light is able to pass through the placoid scale, and the scale might act as a bioluminescent enhancer. So that's actually really cool. So the scales on these sharks might actually help amplify the light that they produce, like kind of like a mirror or something. That's really cool. The last hypothetical function could be added to the traditionally described ecological function of placoid scales, which are enhancement of hydrodynamic properties, defense against parasites, anti-fouling, protection against predators, and protection against substrate abrasion. So, kind of close up of different shark scales here. Okay, so the bottom right is similar to our shark. The velvet dogfish has scales that are shaped like the bottom right. So, kind of tall, has these 3 ridges, and they overlap. Interesting. Oops. A significant correlation between the scale coverage and the bioluminescence is observed. Bioluminescent species being generally characterized by lower scale coverage. Interesting. Again, in the velvet dogfish, the denticles appear translucent to luminescence. This alternative scale organization and morphology may represent a bypassing the trade-off of hemopterids and other delated species encounter, where denticles were assumed to compete with space with photophores. Interesting. Okay. So overall, what's really cool about this shark is that it has a unique set of scales where light is able to pass through them, and the scales may both amplify the light, but also uh, kind of answer a problem that lantern sharks have, where lantern sharks, you know, apparently on their bodies, the photophores compete with space with the scales, but with the velvet dogfish, apparently it can have both. So these scales can cover the entirety of the body, but then the photophores are embedded beneath them and can light through them to create bioluminescence, which is so cool to think about. And again, I think it probably makes sense. Like, we know that the shark hunts squid and probably follows squid in DL migrations. And if it's doing that, and if it's swimming up to the surface, especially at major like squid like spawning events at night, or hunting events when other fishes are spawning at night, under like typically spawning happens under a full moon. If the ocean is illuminated at night, it has this like glow, right? And it makes sense that a shark has evolved bioluminescence on its belly to maybe help blend in with that glow and to aid in hunting, which is extremely cool to think about. So it's an amazing shark that I'm glad that, even though in the beginning where we were kind of exploring what the shark is and we didn't really know much about it, and there wasn't much known about it, as we kind of progress and as science gets better and better, we're realizing it's actually an extremely unique animal that, it's a sleeper shark that glows in the dark, and uses that to its advantage as it's hunting for deep sea prey. So really cool shark. Velvet dogfish definitely surprised me in a fun way, in terms of just I always wanted to know what the species was about and like what makes it unique, and it's kind of cool that I didn't think bioluminescence was the thing that was unique about the shark, and the way it bioluminesces was the thing that's unique about the shark. But there you go. It can shine light through its scales as opposed to around its scales like the lantern shark. So really, really cool species overall. But I think we're going to end a little bit earlier tonight. But I really like this mystery shark. And for anybody who may be watching in the future, please feel free to leave a comment if there's a species you want to cover next week in particular. Until then, I might keep the mystery train rolling, and we'll probably... this shark just kind of randomly came out of the blue just because, it's a cold water species. It's a deep water cold water species. But next week, I'm going to do a completely different order, and it'll be kind of interesting to see who will come up next. But until then, hope everybody has a great rest of your week. And for those who are watching, thank you. And thank you for supporting the channel and for joining. We're almost at 150, which is kind of wild to think about. I think next week is the 150th shark that we've covered. So, but thank you for taking time to meet this deep water species and to see what it's all about. But have a great week. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next week for a new shark. Till then, cheers, guys.